Hello, welcome to another video. As you can see, I'm wearing a football kit, so definitely it's eFootball. We're going to be talking about eFootball right now. One of the few posts that I have done, I've been blogging for the past 4 years now. That's how long I've had my blog, right? 3-4 years now. And one of the posts that got me out of the ghetto of blogging, I'm still not out of it completely yet, but one of the posts that did get me out of it was the post about eFootball. What did I title it? Why your phone is not compatible with eFootball. Now, the reason why I was able to make that post as early as I did and why it got the traction that it did was that before eFootball was released, it was Revolution Soccer before, now it's eFootball. That we used to call it PES. I still call it PES sometimes. Now, before PES was released, I did go through the update sheet and some of the stuff that they promised, and there was something that stood out for me when they said that the game was going to be 64-bit and then it was going to be cross-compatible with the PC and the console versions, that's PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox. And I was like, this game, 64 bits, lots of phones are not going to run this. And then what they call it now, minimum requirements came out. And I remember having arguments with people on Telegram and on Facebook, and they were like, all you need is 2 gig RAM. I'm like, 2 gig RAM is not going to be enough, guys. And I mean, who am I? I'm nobody, basically. Well, I've got a few hundred subscribers on YouTube. A few thousand people read my blog, and I'm a nobody. So nobody paid me any attention. And then the game came out. And I shouldn't really be gloating or saying I told you so, but I did tell people so. Unfortunately, not a lot of people actually got the message, but yeah, it is what it is. So now, Konami's minimum requirements, I'm going to be looking at them now. Konami's minimum requirements state that you need a phone with at least Android 7.0, should have at least 2 gig RAM, a quad-core SoC that's clocked at least 1.5 gigahertz, and at least 3.3 gigabytes of storage or something like that. Those minimum requirements don't work on eFootball, because I've seen many people, after I made the post that, talking about why your phone doesn't work with eFootball, I got lots of comments I had to reply to. A lot of people were in disbelief as to why this was happening. Like, Konami gave out these minimum requirements, what is going on here? And I was like, if only you people would listen to small creators who know what they're talking about. Now, basically, first and foremost, eFootball is a 64-bit game. So many phones that run on 32-bit software are automatically excluded. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit, because on social media, everybody is rich. On social media, everybody's threatening the other person. Do you know who I am? I can buy your entire family. It's social media talk, really. I know, not just from experience, but I know personally speaking, that the majority of the world that we live in, dare I say, more than 60% of the world, people living in the world today, the world has 7 billion people, and I think about 60% of those people are using lower mid-range, budget, and entry-level devices. Don't let what you see on social media fool you. If there was not a market for budget phones, then companies wouldn't make budget and entry-level phones. Especially nowadays that I think the majority of the world's population are younger people who have limited earning power. So you see that those entry-level and budget phones are going to be very, very attractive to them because of the pricing. So don't let people fool you on social media that everybody has a Samsung Galaxy. No. It's just trash talk. Now, a lot of people who own these entry-level budget and lower mid-range phones are going to fall foul of Konami's requirements, and I've seen many people fall foul of them. They bought the phone already. I think sometimes I have almost lost my temper at a few people who were like, fix it. I'm like, I don't understand. Did Jeffrey suddenly become Samsung? What the hell is wrong with you, bro? Like, don't come at me with that energy and that attitude. I know you're pissed off, I know you're angry, but you didn't buy a phone from me, so let's just keep it civil, you know what I'm saying? Let's just be dudes to each other. Let's just be nice to each other. So people came. I mean, after I explained it, I think I explained it here on YouTube as well as on my blog, like why your phone is not compatible with eFootball. Lots of people came up and they're like, we agree that Konami's requirements are trash and that the requirements are much higher. How do we know which phone is able to meet the requirements for this game? So I think I want to put out what I believe are the minimum requirements that you should be looking at before buying a phone, and then also how to spot phones with these minimum requirements. And I'm going to try. I've already taken a bit of time on this video. I'm going to try and be faster about it. Now, when people ask me, when they come on to my blog, for example, and they ask me, Jeff, is X phone going to run eFootball? There's certain stuff that I look at, and I'm going to tell you how I do it so that you can be able to do it yourself. I mean, yes, I'm going to kill traffic that's coming to my own blog with this video, but hey, it is what it is. Personally, for me, I'm always all about giving people tools to help themselves and to help others, because I believe, it's not enough to give a man fish, teach him how to catch fish, basically. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing that you want to be looking at is the SoC, the system on a chip. That's the processor that runs the phone. It's similar to what you have on a PC. When you say CPU, it's similar, but they're not the same thing per se, because the SoC is basically a bunch of CPUs together that handles everything on the smartphone, whilst the CPU basically just does the processing of data alone. So on every smartphone there is an SoC. Now on the SoC there are the main multi-purpose CPUs that actually help you run game and process apps and tasks. So each of these have certain types of CPUs that you should be looking at. Now you can find them anything ARM makes the CPUs per se. I've already done videos on this. You may really want to go back and check on old videos that I have on this channel. So you've got A53, A55, A73, A75, A77, 75, 76, 77, 78, A710, A715, X1, X2. I think there's X3 now. Yeah, I think there's X3 now. So let's get on with that. If you're buying a phone, check the processor. That's the first thing you want to check. If you see anything like A53 or A55 CPUs on them, no. Tell that phone that, get behind me. Those phones are not for gaming. The phones with those processors that utilize those CPUs are not meant for gaming. That's very important. That's very important that you should know. Avoid anything with A53 and A55 CPUs. When you check that and you see everything is there, is just A53 or everything's just A55, you want to avoid those processors as much as possible. The list you should be looking at is A73s. If you've got 4 A73s there, 2 A73s won't be enough. You need to get 4 A73 CPUs there, 4 A73s or 2 A75s or 2 A76. But minimum requirements you should be looking at is 4 A73s. That's what's going to help you game, right? If you've got that, that's very good. That's like really good. I think processors with 4 A73 CPUs you'd find I think the Snapdragon 660, Snapdragon 665, Snapdragon 680. Those ones are good enough for gaming. You can play games on those ones. Then 2 Cortex A75, you see something like Helio G, G70, G80, G85. Yeah, those ones are like good enough. I think G88 as well. Those ones are good enough for gaming as well. So those are the first thing you want to be looking at is the CPUs. The second thing you want to be looking at is the RAM. Now the RAM helps the CPU carry out its function, because when this SoC, I beg your pardon, the RAM helps the SoCs carry out its function. So whenever the SoC wants to process an app or a game or whatever it is, the data is removed from your internal storage and kept on the RAM. So a decent enough RAM, because eFootball is a big game, so you need at the very least 4 gigabytes of RAM, satisfactory to play well without any hookups or lag or any type of the game, like shutting out and then cutting you off in the middle of play and then you lose in a match. You need at least 4 gigs of RAM. 4 gigabytes of RAM. I'd say 3, but I really don't want you to do that to yourself. 4 gigs of RAM, that's the minimum you should be looking at. So you buy a phone with at least 4 A73 CPUs and 4 gigabytes of RAM. If it's not 4 gig, do not buy it, right? So moving on, the third thing you want to be looking at is the operating system. Avoid anything that has Go, Android Go. Anything that's Android Go, you're going to want to run away from that, because those are exclusively 32-bit CPUs. And eFootball is a 64-bit game, so those operating systems would go. Did I just say 32-bit CPUs? I beg your pardon. But basically, 32-bit software can't turn a 64-bit CPU SoC into can turn a 64-bit SoC into a 32-bit SoC. So that's one thing you really want to keep your eyes out for, right? So yeah, 64-bit software only. That's the full Android version. The SoC, at least A73s, you should have 4 of them or 2 A75s, and then basically 4 gigs of RAM. So whenever people ask me, these are the stuff I go to check for. If these 3 check out, and I'm like, yeah, you're good to go. So that's what you should be checking out in order to have like a satisfactory experience when playing not just eFootball now, PUBG, Call of Duty, most other games like that. They'd be good for you. I know the prices of this phone are a bit steep. Phones that have these specifications are a bit steep. You may have to save a little more, or maybe look for check the fairly used market, for example, to have something decent. But if you are sure that you really want to play games, then these are the specs you should be looking at. So I've taken a bit of time on this video. My name is Jeffrey, and I will see you in the next one.